So it's important for everyone, make sure to ask someone, a friend, a family member, like, do you actually think this works?
Yeah.
Like outside of like, we know this is a good person.
Yeah.
But is this person the right person for me? And am I the right person for them as well?
Yeah.
So relationships are very much so all-encompassing. They take a lot of people's time, energy, and I think that like it's a beautiful part of relationships because like you're almost like building a new season of life with a new person.
Yeah. Learning them, figuring them out.
And I think though that oftentimes when people get into relationships, they forget about the benefit of consulting people who are in their life, like family and friends, about the relationship itself. So it's like there's a classic, I guess, trope of like a guy finding a girlfriend and then his boys never see him again.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, where a girl gets swept up by a boy, a guy, and she no longer talks to her friends. I mean, like, I haven't talked to Lisa in forever.
Lisa, hey.
That was the name that first came to mind. Just trying to think of a random woman name, and Lisa came to mind.
There you go.
I haven't heard from Lisa in forever.
Yeah.
And I think that's one version of like this isolation that relationships can sometimes offer, especially if the people are growing in relationship or just excited about the relationship. And they're like, oh, I just want to spend every moment with the person.
That beginning time is hard too, because it's like you're trying to prioritize getting to know this person and trying to navigate like, okay, what does my new schedule look like? Now I want to see this person all the time. So
Yeah.
I understand why people maybe stop hanging out with their friends as much.
Yeah, and so this isolation happens socially, and it manifests itself in many ways. And we want to talk about that. We want to talk about some of the pros and cons of that, but specifically the need for people to consult friends and family about the relationship itself. Before we do that though, there's something different about our set here. And no, your eyes aren't deceiving you. We got a new couch. Comment below how you feel about it.
It's a little smaller than our last one, but it's better.
It's a bit more textury as well. There's some storage under it. It's a beautiful couch. Anyways,
We're loving it.
back to the conversation.
So we were talking about how when you get caught up in a relationship, sometimes it can be difficult to ask your friends and family what they think.
Yeah.
And I think for a few reasons. I think one of the reasons is you really like this person and you don't really want anyone to rain on your parade.
Yeah. And I think that like another reason is like you don't think to ask. Like people just sometimes you assume that no one said anything, so everyone probably
Right.
thinks it's an awesome relationship.
But it's a hard thing to bring up.
But I think
so-
that a lot of people don't want to be that person that gives like unsolicited advice. So a lot of people actually don't say anything about the relationship unless they're asked. And even when they're asked, they feel like, oh, I don't want to say something negative about this person that you're in love with. So I think that there needs to be a point in relationships where people have to say like, no, listen to me. Like, your opinion matters. Mom, dad,
what
friend,
you actually think.
aunt, uncle, friend, whoever it is. What do you actually think about this relationship? What do you think about the person? What do you think about who I'm becoming around them? What do you think about our future prospects? Like, is there any hesitations you have? Is there anything you notice that? Because I think that the best thing you can do in a relationship is assume that you're not seeing it as objectively as you could.
Yeah.
Because there's emotions caught up in it, there's time spent,
Yeah.
there's shared experiences, all these different things.
And at what point, like, do you think you should ask your friends and family this question?
I think, one, it doesn't have to be like, I don't think it has to be like a once and never again. Like, it could be at different stages. Oh, you've gotten to know them more. I wanted to ask you again, is there anything that you see? And I think that it's in every stage of relationships. So if you're a friend with someone and you're like, hey, I'm considering this person.
Yeah.
Feel free to go to a family member or a friend or someone who you trust and say, hey, I'm considering this person. I want to like potentially tell them that I'm interested in them. But before I do that, is there anything that you see about them or about me and them that maybe would be hard for me to see? Same thing is like if you're dating and you're thinking about getting engaged, or if you're engaged and thinking about marriage, it's like, I think especially in that engagement to marriage point, it can be hard for people to have those hard conversations. But there's like a number of couples, whether it be anecdotally or I've been connected with like more I guess firsthand, that knew that there was a point in their engagement process where they're like, oh, I don't think this is the right decision, but they felt like they were too far in. And I think that people always have to remember that you're not married until you're married.
Yeah.
So like.
So you're not too far in.
Yeah, and it's better to call off a marriage before it happens.
Yeah.
Than in it. You know what I mean?
To be years and years with someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like I remember. I just want to speak to the person who like maybe can anticipate what their friends and family would say, and that's why they don't want to ask them.
Yeah, that's good.
Because I feel like I was in that position with the person I was with before you. I knew what my parents would say if I asked them, and I knew what maybe some of my friends would say if I asked them, but I just didn't want to hear it. And I was scared of what they would say, and I was scared of their answer. And so I think if you're in that position, like Daniel said, it's worth it. It's worth it to hear what they have to say. It's worth it to accept that maybe this relationship isn't the best for you, rather than be stuck in something for years longer and then eventually break up, or get married to the wrong person and then be figuring that out for your whole life.
Yeah. And I think something that's important to note too is that there are people in your life that are just as non-objective as you. Maybe they love the person, love you two together like romantically, and they get like wooed by that and by the potential of you guys staying together. Or they're just like, they love a love story. So they don't want to see you break up.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's just as important to find the right person as it is to find a person.
Yeah.
So it's like, I remember, like, I think, for example, like there's siblings that so love going on double dates with you and this other person that you're with, that they just won't be able to be objective about it. They're like, oh, I love what we have. There's parents who are maybe so wooed by the other person that they won't necessarily be able to say, oh, you should probably consider ending things, or these are some red or yellow flags that I'm seeing.
Because it's not just a breakup with you, it's like a breakup with the family, a breakup with friends.
And maybe this person's come on family trips with you and stuff like that, and you don't want to face the reality of like, oh, what we had and what we built and the memories we built are no longer and it's so important for you to like find objective. So I was in a relationship where I had a feeling that it maybe wasn't the right person. And I didn't ask family because family liked them. Friends, we had so many mutual friends, it just didn't make sense. But there was a older couple that was kind of like, they've kind of filled a bit of a mentorship role in my life, and they like offered feedback without me even asking. And I know it's a bold move, but because of their age and because they knew I trusted them, they just offered that feedback. And I was so thankful for that, because their feedback was actually the thing that did it for me. I ended up ending the relationship.
Was it it's like a confirmation of what you were already thinking?
Exactly. And it was kind of like, oh, I had an instinct.
Yeah.
It's almost like when you're in a relationship, the people who are most proximate in community just get used to like you and the other person as an item.
Yeah. And
get used to seeing you together, hanging out with you together, and stuff like that. That they also, just like how the person in the relationship is susceptible to like having the rose-colored glasses on, the people around you in your proximate circle can sometimes have that as well. But it took these people outside of the context to just look at things objectively and be able to give me the advice. So it's important for everyone, make sure to ask someone, a friend, a family member, like, do you actually think this works? Yeah. Like outside of like, we know this is a good person. Yeah. But is this person the right person for me? And am I the right person for them as well? Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, sometimes it's obvious, like either you or the person you're with has really toxic traits. You guys clearly shouldn't be together. Everyone knows that. But like a lot of times breakups are hard because there's nothing wrong with the person you're with. Yeah.
It's not more obvious.
Just like your lives don't go together, or your personalities don't go together, or your trajectories don't go together. Yeah. And to break up with someone for that reason is really difficult, because you're looking at them. It's like, it's not really it's not you, it's me. It's like, it's you. like
Yeah.
it's us not fitting together,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And I think in a previous episode we talked about like when you're in a relationship and determining who's the one, a good question to ask is like, do your futures align, or your ideal futures, are they congruent at all?
Yeah.
Like if someone, if every single thing lines up, except for two significant things, like one person wants kids, one person doesn't,
Yeah.
and one person's ideal future is living in the city, and one person's is living in like on a farm or something like that. It's like those are two significant things that you need to either one person has to come to the other side, or you need to have a serious conversation about
Yeah.
potentially ending the relationship.
Yeah.
And so again, like it's kind of hardest to have these conversations when everything lines up, because there's so much that's clicking that it's hard to admit the things that aren't.
Yeah. What would you say to someone who's like, I feel like I don't have people in my life I can trust to ask about my relationship?
Yeah, I think that's a really tough one. I think that I would ask the person if they're in counseling, or if they have a counselor, and someone who maybe is outside of their proximate circles. I would also say like having community. Again, maybe I'm biased, but having close friends and family is a symptom of health. And so I would maybe ask the person why they don't have
Yeah.
close friends
Yeah.
or close family to be
Yeah.
able to speak into those relationships. Because oftentimes, when someone, like say I'm dating you and you have no close family, no close friends, like that's kind of a yellow flag for me. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, like, is there anyone, like, do you do life with people?
Yeah.
I'm such a communal
like,
person.
how are we getting close romantically, but you're not close platonically,
Yeah,
or in
yeah.
a familial way with anyone?
And so if someone just says like, oh, I don't have family I can trust, or I don't have friends I can trust, I would say like, try to ask a counselor, and then try to just have like critical conversations with the person where you guys are asking each other hard questions to determine whether it's the right fit. And then I'd say, try to find, like, if you don't have close friends, it's like spend the next
That's
2
a
to 3
priority.
years
Yeah.
really prioritizing that, because close friends are so important in grief, in wins, in receiving critique, celebrating significant victories, but also mourning big losses. Like, I think that to be a healthy person is to be in community.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Any last thoughts before we go?
No, we just think it's important before you take that next step, whether it's starting to date someone, taking it to another level of seriousness, or getting engaged, whatever it is, make sure you invite your friends and family in on it. See what they have to say,
Yeah.
and don't be afraid of what they have to say. You don't have to listen to everything they say,
Yeah.
but I think it's good to at least know their opinions.
And that is all for now. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe and share an episode if it's been helpful for you. That would be helpful for us in getting the episodes out, and I'm sure it'll help someone else if it's helped you.
Awesome. We'll talk to you next week.